Not bad.
How are
It's the
you?
middle of the night here in Wisconsin.
Thanks for staying up.
No problem.
Were you up at five this morning too?
Yes, I was.
Oh
Yes,
my
I.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, we appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the camera around so you can see everyone here. I think we have some more members that are gonna be straggling in later, but welcome to
Hey,
Korea,
everyone.
the Seoul Real Estate Investing Meetup.
Annyeonghaseyo.
Did you guys hear? He said 안녕하세요. Trilingual now, huh? Can you hear me? Hello?
Uh,
Can you hear
I
me?
know about three words. So, I know bulgogi, kimbap. Oh, yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay,
Yep.
great. All right, great.
So you can hear me?
I cut out for a little bit, but I think we're back.
Sweet.
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right, Mark. Well, I went ahead and I did a little quick introduction. And yeah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself again and let everyone know who you are, where you are, and what's going on with you.
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. So, Mark Shaffar, I'm from Wisconsin. It's Midwest America, north of Chicago, west of the Great Lakes, and I went to school here in Wisconsin, and then promptly left the U.S. for China. So I was in China for 14 years. Loved it. I was teaching English and studying Chinese. Really enjoyed my experience there. It was great. In 2009, we were back on a furlough and chatting with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and they were saying, "Hey, this is a great time to get involved in real estate. You know, everything's so cheap now," and it got my wheels turning. And I looked at how everything was dropping here in the States, but our properties in China were going up very well. So I figured, hey, why not sell high and buy low? And we sold our house in China and started buying real estate for investment purposes here in the Midwest, and specifically in Minnesota. That's just west of Wisconsin. And I did kind of the rookie thing that everybody does. I bought a house. Actually, the price was okay, which was good. I paid $54,000 for a duplex. But the rookie mistake happened when I hired a contractor, and $100,000 later, we were ready for a tenant, and I was like, "This is, Fortunately, I got a good deal on the house at the front end, so it still is an okay investment, single digits, but I'm not complaining too much on that one.
Yeah.
But it definitely." Working with that contractor, it definitely changed my mind about some things, and I decided after that I wanted to let other people do some of the work. So I got involved with a guy that my realtor recommended who was doing flips. So this is a fix and flip is you buy a nicer house. Well, actually, you buy kind of a junky house, but in a nicer neighborhood, and then you rehab that and sell it on the retail market for a nice profit, hopefully. But if you remember your history in 2009 and 10 in the Midwest, well, actually all over the U.S., that was not a good time. So things were kind of bouncing up sometimes, but generally going down. And on one of those, I think roughly the fourth or fifth flip, just really got burned on it, couldn't sell. And the guy I was investing with, Nate Armstrong, said, "Hey, if this doesn't work out, the market dropped, but I really want you to I want you to be okay with this. If we have to sell, I will eat the loss myself."
Wow.
And I thought that was pretty cool because the whole deal was me putting up the cash and he was doing the work and we were splitting the profits.
Mm-hmm.
So that grew a lot of trust for me in him, but I also liked him. I considered Nate my friend, and I'm like, I don't want you to eat this cost, so I'll just hold on to it and rent it out. So that was my second buy and hold, kind of on accident.
Mm-hmm.
And after I grew that trust for Nate, I decided I wanted to do some more investing with him, and he got into more of the turnkey model. So that was specifically buying in kind of what we would call a B neighborhood. It's not quite as nice as the A neighborhoods for flips, but it's not war zone either. It's kind of a good balance of a place that people would still like to live, but also a good return. The houses are cheaper there. And so I ended up buying 3 duplexes with him there, and then fast forward a few years later, I'm back from China. I'm tired of the pollution and the traffic and all that stuff, and needing to get back to Wisconsin where the skies are blue and you can see all these little white dots in the sky at night. If you look
stars,
up.
Right?
Stars,
okay.
yeah. So Beijing, not so many stars at night. So that's something I really have been enjoying. But yeah, so a few months ago, I mentioned to Nate that I was looking for a job, and he was like, "Hey, come work for me. You know the business. You've been investing with us for quite some time, and you'd be great at it." So took the job, and I'm loving it. I'm meeting all kinds of people. I've had calls in Singapore and Dubai and all over the world, and now Korea. So
wow, add us to the list. Add us to the list.
Awesome. Yep, thanks.
Definitely an international speaking experience now.
Yeah, but it's been a lot of fun. I've been meeting a lot of very interesting people. I'm a huge fan of Bigger Pockets. I know you are too. I don't know how many of your members there at the Meetup are involved, but it's a great resource, and I'm learning a ton, and meet some great people.
Well, we definitely we encourage our members to become members of Bigger Pockets as well, because there's so many different resources. I mean, Bigger Pockets is the entire reason why I was able to invest in Ben and I were able to invest in our first investment property. But it's interesting because you're talking about living in China and investing in America, and I guess that's kind of like the situation that a lot of us are in. And and it sounds like you got burned the first time, at least with the contractor. But like, in terms of being able to conceive of yourself, buying a property sight unseen over, through communication back and forth, internet, email, or whatever, phone calls, like, how were you able to sort of wrap your mind around the risk involved and all that and decide, I'm going to go ahead and go for it and try it?
Yep, so that was a huge thing for me. Before I started doing more of the buy and holds, I had just invested. I think I was telling you about the language school, so I'd gotten burned on that really bad investment with an American guy in Beijing, and so I was really gun-shy. But this was a subsequent furlough the next summer that I came back. And I was talking with Nate. He was talking about this idea of doing these buy and holds. And I liked him. I felt like his character shone through on 1711 Orange, the single family that we were going to flip but didn't flip, ended up holding on to it. So I felt like I could trust him. But then I just went on a simple tour. He showed me around. He showed me the rehabs that they were doing, and I could see the quality of their work. And knowing that my name was on the title of the house, I was like, well, that's, it seems worth the risk. I know the guy, and I know the houses. So the big question is property management. I think a lot of discussion on Bigger Pockets about property management, finding someone you can trust. That's tough. Even if you have somebody you can trust, it's still hard to do it efficiently. So that's... in Minneapolis, where I was buying these turnkeys, Nate didn't have his own in-house property management, so we're using a third party. They're okay. I like this group that we're working with, but that's definitely the hardest part, I think. And I think you're going to see a lot of people on Bigger Pockets saying the same thing. Like that's where you make or break a deal. Obviously, paying less for a deal at the front end is a great idea, but over time, it's really property management. You got to have the right tenants in there, and making sure they're not trashing the place, but also making sure they're paying the rent.
Right.
So that's where your money comes from. So.
Right. So I guess most of the due diligence you did, you were actually able to do while you were in America on visiting or whatever. So you had you had yourself on the ground. You were able to see everything directly. I don't know. What if looking back on it? What if you hadn't had that ability? What if you were like a lot of us and we were just in Korea? Like, what do you think you would have done, or how do you think you would have still made the investment, or?
That's a good question. Would I have done it or not? I don't know. I do know what I would do now would be utilizing bigger pockets and utilizing videos.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're doing now on all of our turnkeys is we're doing a video before the rehab. As we're marketing it, we tend to prefer what's in bigger pockets called the BRRRR model. It's the buy, rehab, rent, refi, and repeat. So we're looking for investors to put up the cash to fund the deal and hold the deal. So in that model, we're sending them pro forma with the cost of the house and the cost of the rehab and videos. So these videos are an external video, a 360 around the house, and then around the neighborhood. It's a little bit like Google Street View. And then we'll go in and our general contractor, Moretis, she'll point at every single thing that she sees that's broken. And so this is the exact same video that are sourcing, the people who are making a decision on sourcing the property, they go through the video too, and they use that to add up with the scope of work for the rehab costs. So that allows the investor to kind of get a picture of the house, the broken house, the pre-rehab house. Kind of see the area, see what we're looking at. And then if we're doing a regular post-rehab turnkey, we're also going to do another set of videos. And so that's one way. I mean, that bridges some of the gap. These are not professional videos. They're not like trick lighting and trying to hide the flaws and all that stuff. They're very raw. Here's all the problems we can see with this house. So that would help. I think with bigger pockets, you've got things like a lot of discussion. You can ask for other people who've worked with this group. Another review site that's somewhat newer is turnkeyreviews.com.
Is that Jay
Bree Schmidt and Jay Hinrichs. Yeah, so they started that, and that I think their reasoning was what you were saying. This is more for the turnkey model, but yeah, I don't know. Are your people familiar with the turnkey model? I know you had Chris Clothier on pretty recently.
I did a little before I brought you on. I went ahead and gave a quick explanation of the turnkey process. So with the video, so you actually have like a contractor or one of your people who deals with the repair side of it go through and like videotape and point out some of the different flaws and things like that, and then that's what you show to the potential investor to sort of let them understand.
Right. So every
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's kind of
cutting in,
backing up a bit there, but cutting out. So Moretis, she's a licensed general contractor. This is what she does for a living. She has a full-time job, or she had a full-time job doing that until she started working with us. So we employ her full-time to make those decisions. And so she has like a GoPro kind of thing on her hat. If you see some of the videos, you'll see a pink hat, and that's in the corner. So she's walking around the house, looking around, and pointing out each thing. She's not crawling up on a ladder. She's not, cutting into walls, but she knows what she's doing. And we do a lot of volume in Milwaukee and Quad Cities. Those are our primary markets, and we have a pretty good idea of what we're looking at for rehab costs. We have an understanding of what basements need. We're very systematized in our approach, and so a lot of those things are set. We're going to paint every house. We're going to put carpet on every bedroom. If we have hardwood floors, we're going to refinish the floors. In the kitchens and baths, we're using the same linoleum, and so those things we kind of have a stronger idea what they're going to cost.
Right.
And so one of the other big variables you'll see people talking about is the rehab cost. So if you're on bigger pockets and you're trying to figure out is this a good deal or a bad deal, people are always talking about rehab costs. And so for us, we have the advantage of, we've been in these markets for quite some time, so we have a pretty good idea. And so when we say the cost is $20,000 or $30,000, that's the cost. That's not going to be pie in the sky, hopeful, cross your fingers cost. It's but every now and then we get it wrong. We just had this about 2 months ago. We had a duplex that was $55,000.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
I was shocked. Like this is a great price. The return was supposedly 16%.
Yeah.
So on just cash if you didn't finance it. So I was pretty impressed with this. It went really quickly. It sold very quickly. But then I found out a month later, like, yeah, we had the owners chose to buy it back. They're like, we got into the walls. It just needed too much work done on it, and we couldn't meet the rehab costs that we had estimated, and so we just bought it back from the investor. Just like, yeah, we don't want the investor to get stuck with a bill higher than we quoted. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to handle it.
So it sounds like the people you're working with are very. They definitely want to. They're thinking long term. They don't want to. They're not looking at every single deal, but they're thinking more of the relationship and making sure that they're able to deliver what they say. For the videos, would it be possible for our members to possibly get a sample of one of those videos? Could you send me a link, or is that okay? Great, yeah, great, and I'll send it out to the members, and they can take a look. And if they're not interested in purchasing a turnkey, but at least to see like just the process of going through a house and figuring out what's wrong with it, and look, I think that would be very educational. We did a short presentation, actually turned into a long presentation on rehab last time, and I was telling people, like, one of the things I did to study was to actually look at before and after pictures on different rehab sites and just kind of like cover one up and sort of look at it and say, think to myself, what are they going to actually repair? What's the scope of work going to turn out? And then look at the scope of work and see how close it was. But this, I mean, if you guys have a video, I think that's a great educational tool.
Yeah.
So with your relationship with Nate, like, how did you? I mean, he sounds like a great guy. How did you even hook up with him to begin with? Like, was that through Bigger Pockets or?
No, this was back in an age before Bigger Pockets. Well, actually, I think it was around then, but I didn't know anyone who's involved with it. So that was in 2009.
Yeah.
And did I meet him in 2009? I know I started in 2009. I can't remember if I met him still in 2009 or in 2010. But yeah, my realtor recommended him. I was telling my realtor that he knew I was primarily about investing. And I think pretty much any realtor you talk to and you say, hey, I want to buy an investment property, they'll show you a property. They'll go around and say, hey, here's a duplex or whatever. But there's a pretty big difference between the customer is looking for investment property or owner-occupied. Right. So fortunately, my realtor kind of realized like he knew he wasn't the guy. Okay. And so he recommended Nate, which was great. And I'm really grateful to him. And yeah, we're still connected on Facebook and whatnot. So yeah, thanks, Robert Stewart, if you're listening. So yeah.
Well, helping to reinforce the message that we're always sending out to our members, which is you got to build your network. If you want to be a successful real estate investor, you got to keep building that network, meeting people, because you never know. I mean, this realtor, it's just if you hadn't talked to that realtor at that one point, they introduced you to Nick at that point, who knows, where your investing career would be. And it's the same thing with me. I've formed so many relationships with different people that have been very impactful, and the way they come about has been so random. I've made an effort to just be in the right, positions and locations and things like that. But then I had no idea I was going to end up meeting this other person, way out over here in left field, and that person has ended up being tremendously valuable to my own investment career. So, good advice. Good advice.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed connecting with you too, Dan. I think we were just talking about investing from overseas and all that kind of stuff. I had no idea that you ran a Meetup and that I'd be speaking to you today.
Well, I was before, you know, I was thinking about how I was going to introduce you, so I started to backtrack on our relationship, and I'm like, how do I know Mark? I don't even know how I know. And then I'm like, oh, it was that one BP post on WeChat, you know, and I happened to write something, and you happened to write something, and I'm like, hey, this guy used to live in China. Well, I'll just send out a message, and it's how this thing's happen. It's pretty cool. So tell us a little bit about Milwaukee, because I know not everyone's familiar with the Midwest and that area. And, you know, like I was telling you the other day, I used to get Wisconsin and Wyoming mixed up all the time because they're both W states. So tell us about Milwaukee and like what it is that your company sees in terms of investment opportunities out there.
Well, strangely enough, for a guy from Wisconsin, Milwaukee is kind of sexy on bigger pockets anyway. Milwaukee was not considered a cool city. Madison is the cool city because that's where the college is, and that's where I spent 5 years, some of the best 5 years of my life in Madison. Madison's the capital. It's a little bit west of Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a great city. It's an older city. It's right on Lake Michigan, straight north of Chicago. We're there because it makes sense to be there. We're there because the numbers make sense. It's a lot of the Midwestern cities in the U.S. have a low price to rent ratio, and so it's very easy to cash flow in a lot of Midwestern cities. I mean, you still have to do your homework. No one's going to hand you the deals on a platter, but it just makes sense to be there. So in Milwaukee, we can do, most of our houses are in the 60 to 70K range, and they rent for $850 to a little over $1,000 a month.
Oh wow!
So Dawn Anastasi is very huge in Milwaukee and very popular in bigger pockets. She's one of the moderators, and she was talking about 3% deals. So that's the monthly rent divided by the cost of the house. And but that was a couple of years ago. So we're not doing 3% deals now. You can still get over 2% if you're in the war zones. There are war zones in Milwaukee. It's there are rough areas. So we avoid those areas. But in the nicer areas that we would call a B area, where there's a mixture of owner-occupied and rentals, we're about 1.5, 1.8, kind of in that range. And this is with a higher-end rehab, too. So I think in general, when people are looking at investment properties, I think the general, at least the knee-jerk reaction is, what's the minimum I need to do to a house to get somebody to want to live there? And so paint and carpet's pretty common. If something's broken, they might fix it. We kind of go a step further. I think Chris Clothier is into this as well. So we're looking at the long range. What's it going to be like to own this house? And the two big variables you have are vacancy and maintenance. So, and they kind of go together. So if you take care of the maintenance side, your tenants are going to likely want to stay there longer. So your vacancy also goes down. So the way you tackle that is you buy in the right neighborhoods. You have a very tight screening process for the tenants. So that's the vacancy side. But you're also doing a high-end rehab on the front end. So you're taking a really good hard look at the mechanicals. You want to make sure that roof is going to have a few years, at least 5 years in it. It's our standard. The furnace, the hot water heater, you want to make sure they're going to have a solid 5 years left. In the Midwest, we have hard water, so it's really hard on the water heaters. So that's just kind of one of the other costs of doing business. We do a lot of water heaters in our rehabs. It's just they don't last very long, usually about 9 years. So so the rehab side, that's those go together.
Yeah, doing more of the work up front so that you don't have to worry about it for a long time, and your tenants are happy. And if you can get tenants to stay for a long time and reduce vacancy, that makes a lot more sense than little by little making the repairs and suffering from the vacancy in between, because you're gonna eventually put out that cost anyways.
Right. So one good example is a toilet. We replace every toilet in every house that we buy. And the green side of me is like, oh man, why are you getting rid of that? Like, it's a waste. But the idea is when we're in there and doing all this, it's easy. It's a couple $100 to put in a new toilet. But say 2 years from now, the toilet breaks down and they call a plumber, or we have to call a plumber. That's $500 to put in a new toilet. And what's the tenant going to do? They've got no toilet for a couple of days while they're waiting for the plumber to come. So, they're going to be upset. And, it's just one of those things like, well, let's just do it in the front end. And then you can finance that, and it's just it's a lot lower headaches for everyone. So.
Right. It's always nice to be able to rent a house that has a new toilet, too.
Yeah, right.
Not to get too sensitive about things, but...
Yeah, well, that's important. So again, for why Milwaukee, it's a growing city, but interestingly, so the salesman in me wanted to find all these great things about Milwaukee, the awesome economy and this and that. And I realized we simply don't have the best economy. This is not, Texas has a very booming economy in a lot of their cities, so a lot of people like to invest there. But the problem is a lot of people like to invest there. So the prices go up.
Right.
The nice thing about Milwaukee is it's growing. Everything's in the positive. The unemployment rate's down to 5.5%. Our vacancy rates are 4.23%. There's a lot of great numbers like that, but the prices are still low. Mm-hmm. There are some investors going there. I think BiggerPockets is part of that. It's attracting a lot of people, but still, it just makes a lot of sense to be there. Milwaukee is a place where a teacher or blue-collar workers they'll rent a house. Mm-hmm. People don't really do that in California. Teachers can't afford to rent a house. Mm-hmm. So you might have a small apartment or something, but not a house. But in Milwaukee, that's where the stock is. That's what. So it's just cheap.
What are the major industries out there that are driving employment and all that other stuff?
Well, Milwaukee is famous for beer and churches. So a lot of European immigrants, German and Polish immigrants from about 100 years ago. So the beer making industry is solid there. Miller is the big brand. The other thing we're famous for is Harley Davidson. Right. That's the headquarters and factories for Harley Davidson motorcycles. Right. There's also a large water treatment. I always forget the name of it. It's a super generic name. It's like this water research facility. Right. So, if you can think of any of the more bulletproof kind of economic indicators, that would be one of them. We're always going to need more water.
Right. Yeah, send some of it to California, where I'm from.
Yeah,
we definitely can use it.
Yes, definitely. There are Milwaukee is attracting a bit more technology investments, not quite as much as California, but the taxes are lower than Illinois, and so we're seeing more industries moving north over the border. Amazon just opened their second large distribution center in the area, mainly to serve Chicago, which is the big city, but the taxes are lower, so move there. Right. And interestingly, our governor, Scott Walker, is now running for president, so we'll see what happens with that. He's very conservative, and I think that's helped with some of our unemployment issues. So.
All right, well, looks like we're coming up on the 12 o'clock mark. I know you've been up for a very long time now. Do you have some time for a few questions? Or
I'd love to.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out to the crowd now and see if anyone here has a question about turnkeys or about Milwaukee or anything about investing. Yes, we got a question over here.
I actually went to Milwaukee.
Oh.
I lived in Green Bay for a few months. In Appleton, I think you know where that is. Green Bay and Appleton.
Yeah, Appleton, yeah.
Yeah, I used to live there for a while. I think for a few months, I just lived there for fun. I know Milwaukee is the party state, party city. does that affect the rental rate or the vacancy rate of the area, as you know?
Did you hear the question, Mark?
Yeah, I heard most of it. I hadn't heard of Milwaukee being called a party area, but so Madison, you're talking to a Badger. So the University of Wisconsin-Madison was at many times ranked the #1 party school, and so if anyone is going to tell me that Milwaukee is more of a party area, I'm just going to be like, my blood is just going to start pumping. What? Yeah, so the vacancy rates are very low in Milwaukee. I think a lot of people lost their houses with the crash and have been renting like crazy. So the rental market is very strong there, and the unemployment rate is going down. So for a while, we were seeing a lot of people kind of move in with family members to try to save some money, and especially if you just lost your house or lost a job. But I think people are kind of getting tired of that, and so they're wanting to have their own place. And the nice thing is Milwaukee's still pretty cheap relative to the wages, so it's just very easy to find a house. Yeah, it is easy to find a house, and people are doing that. So it should be good for the rents. With the unemployment going down and the vacancy rates as low as they are, it really the rents that we're seeing there should only go up. So does that answer your question? The party side, I'm not as sure about.
All right, we have another question. Sandra, go ahead.
Hello.
Sandy?
I have a question. What makes a good rental in Milwaukee? Is it single-family homes, apartments? So what is hot?
Okay.
What is hot?
All right, so we have a question from Sandy. She said, in Milwaukee, what type of asset class makes a good rental? Single-family home, duplex, multifamily? What's hot on the market, so to speak?
It really depends on what you're looking for, or the area you're looking in. I'm a multifamily guy. I've got 4 duplexes and not 2 single families, but it's for whatever reason in Milwaukee, the single families are the ones that you find in the better neighborhoods. You can get multifamilies. There are tons of them available, but they tend to be in the lower end neighborhoods. So we just have our standards, and we just say no to a lot of those. But I tell you what, I mean, at least half the people, the clients that I meet, especially on Bigger Pockets or anywhere else, who are looking at properties in Milwaukee, they're all asking me for multifamily. And what I tell them is, sure, you can get in line, and we'll do our best to find you one. But we say no to quite a lot of them just because of the neighborhoods. So with that being said, the reason most people go with a multifamily is that they want to have a nice return on their investment. There's more rent coming in for the price.
Right.
But one example is actually just today, Suquan Kaur, I don't know if you're connected with her, but she's looking at a place in Milwaukee, and it was $155,000 a duplex, and I'm like, we're in those same neighborhoods, and we're charging half that price for a single family. So you're not really. So I think that was a 7% house, and I'm like, duplexes sound great, but when you look at the actual numbers in Milwaukee, it just doesn't always make sense. I mean, if we can find a multifamily in a better neighborhood, we do it, and those do get higher returns generally than the single families. But in terms of what's hot all around the city, the pockets, there are just so many pockets. It's an older city, and each block is different. I mean, you can just be driving, the prices are jumping 20 to 40,000. I mean, so that doesn't mean a lot in Korea and Seoul probably, but I mean, this is like 40-50% swings in the prices block by block, and there really isn't a good way to generalize that. I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
So.
All right, good. Do we have any other questions? Yeah, we have a question here.
Hey Mark, this is Ben.
Is Ben co-organizer?
Oh,
Being on the show here. How does the property and school taxes compare to the rest of the
I can't hear you.
How do the property and school taxes compare to other states?
So the taxes are higher. This is one of the things that turn people off to Milwaukee. So I've talked to quite a few people who've toured around. Indianapolis is another popular place to invest in turnkeys, Memphis. One of the things I hear pretty regularly, oh, the taxes are high in Milwaukee. And they're right, they are higher, but we're talking at 2% of a $60,000 house. So you might spend another 20 or 50 bucks a month to invest in Milwaukee for taxes. But really, when you look at the whole picture, it still makes sense. The houses are just so much cheaper that, you know, we can do better prices than these other cities that were mentioned. So yes, you're paying a little bit more in taxes, and I wish I could say, oh, you're getting fantastic schools, but Milwaukee's also not known for its schools. So you know, I've had people ask me, oh, you know, we want a you know, a really nice house next to great schools, and I'm like, you know, I'll keep an eye out, but actually Milwaukee doesn't have great schools. And I was talking to some of the other people in our company who work in Milwaukee, like, why are all these people wanting to rent here? The schools are not very good. And it's just like kind of shrugging your shoulders. We don't know, but they're all the same. You know, it's like it's just the standards are lower. You just don't expect a good school, or you know, people do private schools or whatever. So yeah, I wish I could say, oh no, the taxes are low, but they're not. Sales taxes are lower, that's yeah. So we're at 5.5% for sales tax.
Do most of your investors form an LLC in Wisconsin to purchase the house?
It's definitely cheaper to do it in Wisconsin. I think California is like $800 a year for an LLC. Wisconsin, I thought I heard $200 or $300, so it's a lot cheaper. And I have heard a lot of people doing that. But the other big question that comes up with that, so the nice thing about having it in your own name is that you can get a conventional loan, a conforming loan. You can sell it to Fannie and Freddie, or the banks will sell it to Fannie and Freddie.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will get the loan that way. They'll put the house in their name and then immediately do a quick claim to an LLC.
Right.
But there's a lot of discussion on that too. Like, you know, sometimes the bank might want you to undo that. Like they might give you some kind of warning. So there's this clause in most of those contracts called the due on sale clause. Yeah. And so sometimes you might have a bank who, like, they view that as a sale, and so they're going to want their cash back unless you switch it back. So, yeah.
Harrison, did you have a question?
Hey, Mark, my name is Harrison. I'm originally from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh, great! Yeah.
Yeah, and I too am a graduate of Madison. So.
Oh, nice.
Fellow Badger.
What year were you there?
Go Badgers.
What year were you in at school?
95 to 2000.
Okay, so I was about the same time. So.
Oh, great. I was in the nursing program though, so I was in the hospital on the far side of campus, and I was the only guy. So 90 women in my graduating class, and I was
very strategic.
Fortunately, I was engaged at the time, so I didn't take advantage of that.
I just had a real quick question. Does your company focus exclusively on the Milwaukee area, or do you look at Madison or the Twin Cities area at all?
We're definitely there. So that's where Nate is still. That's still his home base. So there's 3 main owners. Nate's one of them. Another guy, Matt Larson, in Quad Cities. Quad Cities is Davenport, Iowa, and 3 cities in Illinois across the Mississippi, Moline and Rock Island. And then, so that's the second place. And then the other owner is in Chicago. So we do some things in Chicago, so a lot in the Quad Cities, very little in Minneapolis. Nate would love to be doing more there. It's just the prices are so high now. It's really hard to get a good deal. Every now and then he'll have something that'll come up. But he's focused mainly in Milwaukee. So Matt, the other owner, so these 3 owners had their businesses doing these things. They were doing flips, they were doing turnkey, but 2.5 years ago they all combined together, merged together to form Midwest Equity Partner. We also do occasionally in Warren, Michigan, which is a distant suburb of Detroit. We've done some stuff in Kansas City. St. Louis, a couple other cities, but right now it's mainly Milwaukee and Quad Cities. So Quad Cities is a great place. We've got a ton of inventory there. It's very, very rural. So they completely shrugged off the financial crisis, very little changes in property values. The main employers are John Deere, the headquarters is there, and the Rock Island Arsenal. So you've got military and you've got agriculture. Those things aren't going to go away anytime soon. So yeah, very solid economy, but and it's very rural, so very low crime.
All right, we have another question over here. Yeah.
How does property management, is it done internally or is it outsourced?
Yeah, so this is a property management question. You brought that earlier about how important it is. And the question is, does Midwest Equity Partners, do they handle it internally, or is that something that's outsourced?
Well, a lot of investors like me were begging for it. So they started doing that in Milwaukee about a year ago. A little bit longer, I think they're about 2 years now in Quad Cities. So it's definitely something that it's on every investor's mind. And for a while, our company, so I just started working there a few years ago. So when I say ours, I'm appropriating that identity, I guess. But yeah, so they started doing this because people were asking for it, and it's a side business for us. In fact, we don't even break even on the property management side, but it is such a crucial part of this kind of investment. And so for a while, they're just recommending a third party, like in St. Paul. And I like our third party property manager there. She's a great woman, Jennifer Olson, Guardian. I trust her, but she's not cheap, and I have a lot of maintenance expenses there, and she's in it to make money, and she doesn't need to apologize for that. But where does her money come from? Me. Yeah. It comes from my rents. So it's just it's a toss up. I don't think she's doing anything unethical, but it's just a different model. And so for us, having it in house means that we're doing it for the investor. So obviously we want to keep the tenants happy, or else we get in trouble because not as much rent's coming in. But it's definitely it's definitely for the investors. And so one of the unique things that we do is pretty much every property management company is going to require an income 3 times the monthly rent. We take it a step further and we look at debt-to-income ratios, which is what a bank would do. Wow. And I've never heard of another property management company doing that, but that's something that came directly from analyzing the data on our tenants and seeing that it really wasn't necessarily the higher paying, the higher salary tenants. It wasn't just the low salary tenants who were paying late. The higher salary ones were too. And so we decided to take a step further and look at the debt to income ratio. So you can have a nice salary, but if you have a lot of debt, you're still going to get stuck, and you're still going to have that temptation to forego that rent check. So once we started doing that, I think our numbers are 43% debt to income is our upper limit. So we've had a lot better success with that, and we're definitely going to keep doing that.
So everything is handled in-house at this point at the property management?
In Milwaukee and Quad Cities, yes. In Minnesota, they're working on that, and they said another month or two. So I'm delighted. So I've got 9 units up in Minnesota that I really want to get moved into our in-house version. So
great.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Do you guys anyone else have anything for? All right, I guess then let me just end with this question. It's a question we like to ask all of our guests, and that's like, what do you think has been the biggest challenge you face as an investor, and how is it that you were able to? What did you learn from it, and how is that going to help people like us who are investing with you?
I think the biggest challenge was that upfront thing, which is the same thing that you guys are dealing with, which that not knowing who to trust, who to go with. When other people ask me that's so I'm a sales guy. I'm investor relations manager, and I was thinking, well, how do I build that trust? I'm like, I just don't. I don't know. Like, I think you kind of need to see. Like, I think you kind of need to go and see it, like for yourself. You probably shouldn't just trust a guy you met on the internet. So that would be a big challenge that I'm facing. But as an investor, I think we've kind of already talked about it. It's that property management, and I think you're going to see, after you get past the initial phase of the rehab and all those hassles, that property management side is huge. So trustworthy is one thing. I do feel like I found that with Guardian, but beyond that, just doing it efficiently it's tough. It's really, really tough to find someone who's going to do a good job and do it efficiently. And that's year after year after year. Like, that is going to make the biggest difference. So they want to get a good tenant in there. They make money when there's a good tenant in there, but they also make money when they send out their maintenance guy, and they make more money if he stays longer. So it's like, it's hard for them to do it very efficiently.
The incentives are not exactly aligned.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think for us, so I'm really looking forward to the in-house stuff.
All right, well, that's great. Well, we appreciate you staying up so late to talk to us here in Seoul, and I know that you have that early morning schedule, so I apologize for. Hopefully, we didn't throw that off too much today.
No problem.
No problem. We got a lot out of it, and I was hoping, sort of as a send off, if you wouldn't mind, because I know you speak Chinese fluently, if you could say, I don't know, join the Seoul Real Estate Investing Meetup in Chinese. All right, the Seoul Real Estate Investing Meetup, the best decision you can make, or I don't know, something like that.
Oh man, the core thing, I can't even think of how to say Seoul in Chinese.
You can just say Seoul.
Seoul, OK。我希望大家都可以参加Seoul 的 Meetup。会议 is meeting， 是你最好的选择。It's the best decision 你一辈子可以做的，like that you can do your whole life. So.
All right, one more time, so we have a clean one.
我希望大家都可以参加韩国的首都的会议，这是你世界上你一辈子的最好的选择。So I just said Korea's capital. That I know.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mark.
So
Thanks for being great sport.
I don't know if Dan got this in the intro, but I had a podcast with Joe Fairless, and he kept making me speak Chinese, and I was so caught off guard. That was not in the. So he sent me a bunch of questions beforehand, and I prepared those very diligently. But then he was asking me all these Chinese questions, and I was caught very flat-footed because I don't speak a lot of Chinese here in Wisconsin. I've had a few clients who do speak Chinese. They're like Chinese Americans, though.
Yeah.
And so they'll speak Chinese with me to kind of humor me, but they speak English very, very well. So.
Like, Mark,
anyway, thanks for embarrassing me, Dan, though. I really
that was awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah. Appreciate it. All right, well, you go ahead and get some rest, and I'm sure we'll talk in the future.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Hope you guys all have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.